So, good morning, Wake Forest Baptist family. I've always been intrigued by the quote that says, Paradise is like having a library. But to me, paradise is far greater than just that. But I understand the sentiment a little bit and always maybe find a little more heart for the quote that says, No person is without friends who has the company of good books. So, this is my office where I live. You can look around, you see us surrounded by nativity sets, but hundreds of books that survived the hundreds of other books that were given away. And so I'm surrounded by friends, and the time that I've spent, some people ask what my hobbies are. I say I love to read. Always good friends. And so what I want to do today and next week is to share my top 10 books. I went around, looked through the shelves, books that have especially been impactful for me and for whatever reason. Not all of these are books for everybody and not for you, and some maybe are for everybody. I'll try to say that. And the list will be written in the WOW along with some of my can't miss authors. Ones, I don't care who you are, if you read their books, you're going to read good stuff. But I want to share the first 5 today and then the second 5 next week. People ask me sometimes, can I recommend a book? There's one book I always come back to because it's not a Christian book. So it's one that you can really share with non-Christian friends, but it has an incredible Christian testimony at the very heart of it. And that's the book Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand, same writer who wrote Seabiscuit. It's the story of Louis Zamperini, who was an Olympic athlete in the Berlin Olympics, went on to become a prisoner of war in Japanese prison camps, and the unbelievable story of his struggle. And then he came home and he struggled with alcoholism, but eventually in a Billy Graham crusade came to Christ. And it's the whole story. It's just powerful story. I've read the book several times over. Just can't say enough. So if you're going to recommend one book to anybody, Unbroken by Laura Hildenbrand. Second book I want to talk about is called The Return of the Prodigal Son. I literally just finished reading it again for I don't know how many times. This book, because I'm not a kid anymore. I can't allow myself to be thought of only as the prodigal son. I'm the prodigal father, and this story really calls on us to a certain point in our Christian journey to move beyond always just searching and to be able to be a vessel of what you have found in your searching. And that's what I'm trying to do as a pastor now in my advanced years. So I'm the prodigal father, and I have to claim that. What is the blessing that I can give to others? Another book, which should not be for everybody, but I've always been fascinated, especially by the civil rights movement in our country. The 60s, the ministry of Martin Luther King Jr., the Freedom Riders, the struggles they went through, the unbelievable stories that happened right here in our backyard. Taylor Branch has written a number of volumes about those times in America. This is one that's my favorite, Parting the Waters. They're all, as you can see, big volumes, so much to write about, but he talks about the ministry of Martin Luther King and how that transformed this country and the struggles that came through it all. Now, you would not be surprised that I would say this next book is one that you ought to read. Our Story of Faith. This is our history book of Wake Forest Baptist. It's the only book ever written, and probably ever will be written, where actually there's something about me in it. And, you can imagine the first thing I did when I got with this book, what did I do? I went straight to the part that talked about me and made sure they made me sound good, better than I really am. But really, the history of Wake Forest Baptist is unique. I learned so much by reading it. What I was surprised was to learn so much about this community as well and how the church and the community related to each other. And so it's really important to understand our history, not only as residents of Wake Forest, but as members of Wake Forest Baptist Church. And it's written by Sean Price. And the last one I just want to mention today, I've taught this book. I've tried to live this book. This is written by my spiritual director out in Colorado when I was doing Soul Care Institute studies. It's called The Lazarus Life, and it's based on the story of Lazarus in the Bible. When Lazarus was called forth to come out of the grave, when he came out, he was wrapped in grave cloths. To really be fully alive, he had to take off those grave cloths. And the whole point of this entire book is, What are the grave cloths in your life? What is it that you need to get rid of? What do you need to let go of in order to be fully alive? I've taught this book. It really challenges us. It really makes us look deeper inside as to what is holding us back from the resurrected life. Highly recommend it. The Lazarus Life by Stephen Smith. So, 5 books, not for everybody. Some are, some aren't. You got to keep reading, folks. And you can imagine number 10 when I come to next week. It's going to be that book called the Bible. So keep reading, keep being thankful for those who write, and have a good day.